Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial in which I'm gonna share with you how to set up Tailwind CSS version 4 with FastAPI. So let's begin by creating a new virtual environment by running the command python 3-m virtual env, and I'll call this virtual environment bemb and hit enter. Now let's activate this virtual environment by running the command source./bemb/beam/activate and hit enter. Now let's clear our console and install FastAPI. For that we will run the command pip install FastAPI standard and hit enter. Once this has finished, let's create a FastAPI application. For that I'll create a new file, main.py, and here I'll import from FastAPI, import FastAPI. Now let's create a new app, FastAPI. Now let's add a route, add app.get, and this route will point to the index route. Let's define an async function, async def index. And this will simply return a hello world string. Hello world. Now let's test our FastAPI by running the deb server. For that, let me clear my console and we will run the command FastAPI deb main.py and hit enter. This will start our deb server and let's open it in the browser. So as you can see, this returns hello world. Now let's return some HTML. For that, I'll create a new folder, templates, and here I'll create a new file, base.html, and this will be a base HTML file. So in Visual Studio Code, we have this snippet in which if we type the exclamation symbol, we will get a base HTML template. And here, let's return a text, h1 hello world from FastAPI and hit on save. So for this installation, you should have Jinja 2 already installed, but if you don't have it, just run the command pip install Jinja 2. That will be our templating engine. So now let's run our deb server. Now we need to return some HTML instead of a string. For this route, we need to return this HTML. And for that, let's set up the template response. For that, we need to create a templates variable that will be from FastAPI.templating import Jinja 2 templates. Now this variable will be equal to Jinja 2 templates and we need to pass a directory name. Directory will be equal to templates. And now we can return a templates.TemplateResponse, and here we will return our base.html file. And also we need to pass a context that will be simply a dictionary that will contain the request and the request that comes from the route. If you want a typing, this will be request from FastAPI, request. Now let's pass it in the dictionary, request, and hit on save. Now if we reload the page, we will see that we are returning the HTML. Hello world from FastAPI plus Tailwind CSS. And hit on save. If we reload the page, we will see the changes. Now let's set up Tailwind CSS. For that, we will be using the documentation, specifically the Tailwind CLI. A pretty straightforward process, so let's first begin by installing the dependencies. In order to install Tailwind CSS, we will create a new folder, Tailwind CSS. Here we will create a new folder, styles, and here we will set up Tailwind CSS. For that, let's run a new terminal inside this folder, and here we will install the Tailwind CSS dependencies by running the command npm install Tailwind CSS and add Tailwind CSS /CLI and hit enter. Once this has finished, we will create a new app.css file inside the styles folder. Here we will import Tailwind CSS. Okay, so now in order to compile this CSS file, we need to run the Tailwind CLI build process. So we will run this CLI tool inside a script. So let's create scripts in our package.json, and this script will be for running the dep CLI build process. And this will be the command npx add Tailwind CSS /CLI-I, and this will point to the app.css file. So this will be styles /app.css, and this will compile all our Tailwind CSS utility classes into a folder that will be the static folder, and inside this we will have our CSS folder. So in order to point to this CSS folder, we need to use relative paths. Double dots for positioning us at the Tailwind CSS level. And here we will select the static folder and the CSS folder, and here we will locate our app.css file. And that's it. So there's an interesting feature in Tailwind CSS v4, and this is the explicit source directive. This will tell Tailwind CSS where to look or scan for Tailwind CSS utility classes. So in order to scan the templates folder in which our HTML is located, we can use the directive at source and use relative paths. So for that, we will use a double dot. This will locate us at the styles level. We will use another double dots, and this will allow us to point to the templates folder. Now, if we run the Tailwind CSS build CLI by running the command npm run dep, this will automatically catch all Tailwind CSS classes that are located in our templates folder. Now, in order to load our generated app.css file in our HTML, we need to load Tailwind CSS in our HTML file. So for that, let's first mount this static folder in the main.py file. So this will be app.mount. This will be our static folder. This requires to import from FastAPI.static files, import static files. And that's it. Now we can add static files, and the directory will be static. And we need a name to reference this folder, and this will be static. Now let's import the link tag in our HTML, and this link tag will be link. The href attribute will point to a Jinja variable. So double bracket, and this will be URL for open parentheses. We will point to our static folder, and the path inside this folder will be /CSS /app.css, and hit on save. Of course, let's add the rel attribute, and this will be style sheet. Let's hit on save and reload the page. And as you might see, the styles now are coming from our app.css file. For example, if I add a background blue 400, now we have Tailwind CSS4 set up on our FastAPI application. So now that we have set up Tailwind CSS in our project, we can optimize the way we serve the CSS files. For that, we will add a GZIPMiddleware by adding an app.add_middleware, and here we will import from FastAPI.middleware.gzip the GZIPMiddleware and add the middleware GZIPMiddleware. And that's it. If you have any questions, you can leave your comments below. I'll leave the GitHub repo link in the description below. And also, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.